I believe there's a strict, clear agenda. If you read into the old lines of Helena or Alice Bailey or David Spangler, Paul Von Ward, all these other guys, Benjamin Crimm, so forth, and some of the older Luciferians, their agenda is very clear. They know that there's going to be a great cleansing in order to bring about a whole new age, a whole new spiritual age. It's about a spiritual evolution.
And it's a time in which the powers of the universe are going to enlighten mankind, whether they're ready or not.
Do you mean an external influence?
There's something I absolutely, at a deep level, I know it.
While many today in the truth movement believe that the momentum is fighting against the New World Order, and even winning, they are in fact being led by such people as Michael Tessarian, Jordan Maxwell and David Icke, who they themselves are adherents to New Age doctrines. But while these men expose some truth in regard to political corruption, they steer in the direction of the real or spiritual New World Order. The most striking example of this is the influence of Blavatsky on Michael Tessarian and Jordan Maxwell.
Gentlemen, have you ever heard or read Mrs. Blavatsky? She's
Helena Petrovna Blavatsky?
Right.
Yes, I have all of her works.
You have?
Yes.
Well, that's why. Yes.
I think her best work was Isis Unveiled, Part 2, which is theology.
Right. Science.
And that was an exceptional work. I think that Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, the Russian mystic, was a very wise and perceptive lady, and she had some very profound knowledge, obviously, and her academic achievements were extraordinary, and so I have a very high respect for the work of Helena Blavatsky.
Madame Blavatsky, one of the greatest scholars the world has ever known, writes in this way. She says, the appellation Satan in Hebrew belongs by right to the first and cruelest adversary of all other gods, Jehovah, not in the serpent which spoke only words of sympathy and wisdom.
In this quote, it's clear that Tessarian agrees with Blavatsky, the greatest scholar the world has ever known, that what we call God should be called Satan, and the serpent is actually our good friend. I just want to show you how by any definition, Tessarian is a Luciferian, regardless of what he tells you that minute that the serpent represents.
We're being brought into a new world that you are not going to recognize in the next 20 to 50 years.
And one great example of the way this works I came across, which the beings, which we call the guys, told us about.
You call them the guys?
The guys, yeah. It's not
like the beings like
Tarot,
Rakoski.
And yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Now
he was Jesus' father, Rakoski.
That's right.
And Merlin as well.
Part of him was, yeah. That's right. Aspects.
Now, although there's a lot to talk about from that clip, the thing that I want to focus in on is the being's name, Rakoski. In Theosophy, Rakoski is one of the ascended masters. These are the beings that are supposedly so evolved that they have transcended the physical realm, and now they are helping humanity pass through a coming age of enlightenment. Rakoski was a particular ascended master that Alice Bailey wrote extensively about. It is especially significant that Icke calls him the Lord of all creation, and elsewhere, as we will see, the Lord of civilization, and says that he is, quote, directly responsible for the changes the earth will undergo, because these are absolutely clear examples that he is referring to the same ascended master that Alice Bailey made prominent, as she gave him those exact titles and said that his task was to establish the new civilization of the age of Aquarius.
Jordan Maxwell has stated that he has been influenced not only by Blavatsky, but also by Manly Palmer Hall, the 33rd degree Freemason.
I'd like to pay tribute to three people who have influenced my life greatly. Probably the most impressive man I have ever personally known and has impacted my life was Mr. Manly Palmer Hall. Manly P. Hall, if you do not know, is one of the most brilliant spiritual men that I have ever even read about. And so I want to pay tribute to Mr. Hall.
They're showing from their primary documents what they are trying to do. And here in this document, Manly Palmer Hall tells us that a secret governing body controls the globe, not the various religious governing bodies that pretend to rule. That's what I was trying to tell you with that diagram with the black circle in the middle of the pie. And who is Manly P. Hall? Manly P. Hall was a Grand Master in the Illuminati, and he was also a Grand Master in Freemasonry. And here is the Scottish Rite Journal's obituary of him: illustrious Manly Palmer Hall, often called Masonry's greatest philosopher.
They were to deny that Lucifer was their god whenever an outsider was smart enough to break through all of the secrets and figure it out. Well, of course, folks, they're sworn to secrecy. They have to deny anything about the true secrets of their order. I mean, what kind of logic is this? That's plain as the nose in your face. You must understand that when you ask a Mason a question about Freemasonry, he's going to tell you a lie because he is sworn to secrecy, and he is sworn by blood oaths. And I know that by the time they've reached the 32nd degree, they've taken at least 32 different oaths swearing them to secrecy.
Manly P. Hall, if you do not know, is one of the most brilliant spiritual men that I have ever even read about. And so I want to pay tribute to Mr. Hall.
And who is Manly P. Hall? Manly P. Hall was a Grand Master in the Illuminati.
What is even more disturbing is when one considers the following quote from Manly Palmer Hall's book, America's Assignment with Destiny. The genuine esoteric associations always required that disciples prepared themselves for careers of practical service. The student was expected to attain to a state of unusual skill or proficiency in some branch of learning. He was then to practice this profession or craft as a means of extending his sphere of constructive influence. He was to teach through example, enriching his chosen vocation with the overtones of enlightened religious philosophy, thus gradually creating a significant zone of influence. He was available for whatever task the keepers of the great plan required. Practical ends can only be achieved by practical means, and the agents of the universal reformation must be sufficient for every emergency. Alice Bailey was a disciple of the Luciferian theosophist H.P. Blavatsky. She praised Blavatsky in the acknowledgement page of her work, A Treatise on Cosmic Fire, when she stated that the book was, quote, dedicated with gratitude to Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, that great disciple who lighted her in the East and brought the light to Europe and America in 1875, unquote. Alice Bailey never claimed to write any of her 24 books, but rather that the Tibetan spirit guide Shual Kul wrote them. In other words, Bailey was channeling the spirit. Foster Bailey, Alice Bailey's husband, stated in his book Running God's Plan that modern esotericism is a new phenomenon in the Western world, pioneered by the Tibetan teacher Shual Kul. Working with H.P. Blavatsky, again this time working with Alice Bailey, the same master teacher has provided the interim teaching needed for conscious entry into the new Aquarian age. The study of this new teaching in the books published under the name of Alice Bailey is producing a revival of esotericism and a new technique for self-development, this time with the selfless goal of world service. Alice Bailey founded the Lucifer Publishing Company in 1920, but the name changed to Lucis Trust in 1922. Terry Mellinson from conspiracyarchive.com stated the following on how Lucis Trust is run. Lucis Trust is run through an international board of trustees, whose membership is said to have included John D. Rockefeller, Norman Cousins, Robert S. McNamara, Thomas Watson Jr., IBN former U.S. Ambassador to Moscow, Henry Clausen, Grand Commander of the Supreme Council 33rd Degree, Southern District, Scottish Rite, and Henriette Kissinger. This would then tie Bailey's influential occult organization into the international conspiracy of elitists, including the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergs, and the Trilateral Commission. Many of these people are involved in tax-exempt foundations. These foundations have massively altered life in the United States over the last few decades. The following gives an example of how these men and these organizations are trying to alter education in the United States and through many other similar organizations in other countries around the world.
The story you are about to hear represents a missing piece in the puzzle of modern history. Without this knowledge, many contemporary events are simply beyond understanding. You are about to hear a man tell you that the major tax-exempt foundations of this land, since at least 1945, have been operating to promote a hidden agenda. And that agenda has nothing to do with the surface appearance of charity, good works, or philanthropy. The man who tells this story is none other than Mr. Norman Dodd, who in 1954 was the staff director of the Congressional Special Committee to investigate tax-exempt foundations, sometimes referred to as the Reese Committee, in recognition of its chairman, Congressman Carroll Reese. Mr. Dodd, you have spoken before about some interesting things that were discovered by Catherine Casey at the Carnegie Endowment. Can you tell us that story,